I am just now getting back to the point where I can eat and enjoy vegetables again. As a kid, vegetables were not an optional food for me. Sound familiar? Once, sometimes twice a day, I would shovel them down, and in the process, I would receive a reward in the form of health benefits. And then I would also be able to receive an additional reward in the form of dessert. Somewhere along the line, the vegetable eating portion of that equation became less than enjoyable for me. And while eating vegetables may be the exact opposite of fasting, I can assure you that when I ate them, my face was disfigured and I definitely looked dismal. The only reason I continued to eat them was that promise of the reward of a dessert, a very tangible reward. And eventually one I didn't even have to suffer through eating vegetables to obtain. And in focusing on that reward of the dessert, neglecting the reward of the health benefits that came from the eating of the vegetables. It would appear that the crowds to whom Jesus was directing these teachings may have found themselves in a similar predicament. Almsgiving, prayer, fasting, these are all admirable, noble ways to demonstrate faith. And yet all these practices can actually be detrimental to our faith when our focus on performing them is split between God and on our peers, between focusing on storing up treasures in heaven and focusing on having others notice our good deeds. Jesus was preaching this sermon to the crowds today because he could see the way in which their focus was trending. Trumpets were not actually blown when the wealthy gave money, but that doesn't mean that the look on their face didn't clearly convey the intention behind their giving. Much like their faces conveyed the utter agony that they felt when they were fasting, so everyone would know what they were doing. Much like how everyone would know exactly how blessed was their connection with God through their grandiose gestures and words in their prayers. Their focus was on the reward of the attention in the public sphere. That reward, the one we receive having others notice our actions, is just as seductive as the promise of a scrumptious dessert, and just as able to lure us to ignore the value of what we know is good for us. The practice of eating vegetables isn't glamorous. It doesn't inspire millions of dollars in advertising. And it would most certainly not catch your eye if you saw vegetables in the window of a store on the Magnificent Mile. In short, that practice is not something that we advertise in public. And yet it is something that we know to be essential to our well-being. Isn't that what Jesus is saying here about our faith practices? Keep your left hand from knowing the amount that your right hand is writing on your pledge card. Pray to God, not to obtain the pity of others. When you give up coffee for Lent, or add in that additional vegetable in a meal, don't post about how horrible that is all over social media. These examples, in the same vein as Jesus, are extreme. And through the use of them, Jesus isn't literally asking you to hide your prayers from everyone else. But rather, he gave those examples so that we question the reason behind why we pray the way we do. To question the reward of what we are looking for, the reward of the admiration and the pity of everyone else, or the reward of the renewal of our relationship with God. That relationship which was made possible and made perfect for you through Jesus' journey to the cross. A journey that Jesus did not undertake to receive validation from his disciples and the crowds following him, or to receive attention from the religious and the political leaders. Jesus undertook that journey to give us the reward of eternal fellowship with God that promises us treasure in heaven where nothing can consume it and where no one can destroy it. A journey which serves as a reminder that our God is a relational God, and that God journeyed through the wilderness and up onto the cross to bring our relationship with God into perfection. A journey that now becomes our journey as well as we walk alongside Jesus through this wilderness of Lent. This is not a glamorous journey. This is a journey where our spiritual practices become a reminder to us about the relational nature of our God. I invite you to look back and to think ahead. Back to the practices that you have found most fulfilling in your spiritual wanderings through the wilderness. Ahead to how future practices can renew your relationship with God. These are the disciplines, like that of eating daily vegetables, that may not seem to have the most tangible results. But with your focus on these disciplines, the seeming reward of the other's approval and attention, that fades. And the true reward of a commitment to a renewal of your relationship with God, that grows.